My name is Seth Axsom. I'm a senior here at West Liberty.
Seth, can you give me a little bit of background on how you got started in sports?
So I got started in sports from a young age, playing the youth sports here in town. I played youth sports soccer. I think I did track for a little bit, flag football. I mean, you name it, I did it. I started playing basketball in third grade, baseball when I was 6 or 7, playing with older guys. I did everything, and that's just kind of the way I was raised. Because my cousin was my role model growing up, my older cousin, and at that age he was playing high school football. So that's kind of who I looked up to and what I wanted to do when I was in high school.
Who is your older cousin?
Brett Becker.
Brett Becker.
Yep.
So Mark, the infamous
his,
Mark Baker's
yep,
son.
His son. Yep.
Who's a coach now, I believe, correct?
Yeah, he's the offensive coordinator at Dallas Center Grimes in Des Moines.
Awesome.
He's had good programs. He was at Johnson for a while, and then he went down to Kansas City, and he was rolling down there.
Nice. So, would you say he's your biggest inspiration in sports?
Yeah, hands down. I mean, from a young age, I had a whole bulletin board in my room of like pictures of us together, newspaper articles of him. I mean, he was the person I looked up to. When he came over, I thought I was the coolest kid around.
Yeah. What's your proudest moment in your athletic career so far?
I don't know. I'd say like my own proudest moment was a couple weeks ago in Santa Mosa when I knew I broke the career receiving record, but I didn't tell anybody. I just kind of kept that number in my head and just kind of kept tracking it year round.
Was it held by your cousin?
No, it was held by Noah Feldman, but
Okay.
I broke one of his records last year for receptions in a season.
Walk me through what you do for preparation during the season. Like, what's a typical day in sport athlete Seth's life?
I don't really do much. I don't have any superstitions. It depends on the day. I'll go to school, do my stuff. For football season, like game days, we'll eat after school, and then if it's a home game, sometimes I'll go home and take a nap for 45 minutes, come to school, get dressed, and get ready to go. Away games, I'll go home, get my stuff ready, jump on the bus, and go. I mean, there's nothing really special on my end.
What would you say some of the keys to your success would be? Like, what would you give the credit to?
I'd say just understanding what's going on. Like, that's one thing that I think the coaches appreciate, especially this year, is just understanding my assignment on every play. On the offensive end, being a mini coach on the field, trying to help other players if they don't know what's going on, and it really makes it a lot easier to get yourself the ball if you're in the right spot, and everything goes a little smoothly that way.
How much extra pressure do you feel then as assuming a leadership role in a team like that?
In that situation, I'd say not much. Like, it's just, part of it is I have a photographic memory for some part of it, so I can see the play in my head before it actually happens.
Okay.
So I can see the play art, or I can see the way it would look if you drew it up on a board. Okay. What everybody's jobs are.
When you're playing the game and you get in the zone and you get in rhythm, does it feel like things slow down for you?
Kind of. It's gotten better. Last year, it comes with experience, and I think that's part of it that I missed out on when I was younger, not having all that game time. But especially this year, like, you can start to see where people are going before they're there. So those little holes or angles are there before that actually happens, and that's how you get those extra yards.
So it's clear for me to say that your role on the field is also a leadership role. Mm-hmm. What about your role in the locker room, your role in the weight room, your role in meetings? What's that role look like for Seth?
So honestly, I'm a pretty quiet guy outside of the football field. In the locker room, they play their music, and I just kind of stay quiet, keep to myself. I'll hype up a few guys, push them, yell, whatever, but it's not like I'm walking around to every single person, trying to get them going. And in the weight room, it's the same way. I kind of lift by myself, walk around, talk to people, but I'm not going to go scream in somebody's face to get them motivated or anything like that.
Okay. What are some life lessons that you've learned
from football? From
football and from the teamwork and from your experiences that are going to benefit you going forward?
I think competitiveness, honestly. Like, in football, you have to get after one another. Otherwise, you're not going to be successful. It's a physical game. And it's not necessarily being physical in real life, but being competitive will help you, if you want to get a promotion for jobs or for colleges wanting to get a scholarship for money. I mean, competition surrounds you if you let it, and then, that's how you be successful.
Is that what drives Seth Axsom?
I'd say kind of. I I don't settle for being average. I mean, I'm trying to always, keep up good grades, get scholarship money. I mean, whatever it is, I'm trying to be successful at it.
So when you're competing, this is a question I always ask. Are you competing more against yourself, or are you competing against somebody else on the team? What's your mindset when you're in the weight room? What's your mindset when you're running your route? Are you trying to do it better today than yesterday, or are you trying to do it better than your teammate?
I'm trying to do it more of myself. I feel like as long as I fix it myself, it will correlate to the other guys. Because like you mentioned, I'm a leader, somebody everybody watches. So if I run a route wrong, then everybody's gonna, notice that. Not necessarily as a bad thing, but then they could replicate it. So I have to make sure that I get it right for other people to get it right to set a good example.
So you're diagnosed with hemophilia. What's the definition or diagnosis of this?
So hemophilia is a blood disorder where I don't have platelets in my blood. I'm lacking platelet content in my blood, so my blood doesn't clot. So if I get a cut, it bleeds longer, nosebleeds bleed longer, bruises get worse than, an average person.
Yeah.
So injuries are a little more severe for me. And that's why, contact sport like football would never be an option because you're going to get hurt in football.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So you go through freshman year running cross country.
Mm-hmm.
Did you help with the football team in freshman year?
I would show up on game days. I started doing some charting for Coach Iskey. I remember Solon, I had to keep track of where a certain player lined up. But at the time, getting into high school football, I had understood football, but since I hadn't played it, I didn't know the terminology of it.
Okay.
So I think football has its own language. So that was something that I had to learn throughout the year. And I think against Comanche, I had to do film for the first half as well, while one of the parents who did the filming he was running late, so I ran film against Comanche for a while. But I just did a couple odd jobs for the coaches throughout the year.
What'd you think of running film and picking up on the terminology?
It was what I wanted out of it. I wanted to follow in and be a coach, and that's part of being a student of the game. All coaches are. I mean, Coach Saban, who's done it forever, learns something new every year.
Of course.
So I mean, you're always constantly learning, and that's what I wanted to pick up from it.
So after your freshman year, you come back sophomore year. Tell me about sophomore year.
So sophomore year, I started being a manager. First week of practice, a couple weeks before school. And I show up, and Coach Kivy looks at me, and his eyes lit up, and he's like, "You're going for football?" And I was like, "No, I'm just here to manage or coach." And he was a little let down, but he was happy I was around. And I had the whole conversation with my mom had started because it was like the third day of practice, and I was throwing routes to receivers for Coach Morris on the JV side of it. And he just sat there and he kept talking about all the things we could do if me and Riker were playing JV together and all the other guys. And I just remember I went home and I was super, super down in the dumps. And my mom just was kind of wondering what was going on. And I was like, this is hard, harder than I expected. Because I expected wanting to be a coach, but I didn't expect wanting to play so badly. Something I thought I'd accepted, but, you don't really know until you try.
Tell me about that. You talked to mom.
So it had been a conversation in the summer with my nurse. She comes down once a week to give me my shots now. But she's been with me since freshman year when I got hurt in basketball. I mean, she came down every day for a month to give me shots to get me back up and playing in basketball freshman year. And she's great. And talking to her during the spring of freshman year, summer after freshman year, she had mentioned something about a patient of hers playing football. And, we were like, this was never an option for us. We were told it would never be realistic.
Yeah.
So my mom had talked about it, but I kind of blew it off, never got my hopes up kind of thing. But then that day when I came home, I was super sad, and she's like, well, you never seem interested. And I was like, well, I just didn't want to give my hopes up. So, the night went on, whatever. And a couple weeks later, it was the scrimmage against Mid-Prairie that year. It was kind of like a rainier night, it was supposed to be a scrimmage, but we all knew it kind of wasn't going to happen. And we were down in the practice field, which is now the whole complex. And the coaches were like, hey, let's take some stuff up to the field before we get going into school, because the storm was coming. But we just thought we'd take stuff up to the school. So we started walking to the road. My parents were there, and I was like, well, that's kind of weird. Like, I expected my parents to be there for the scrimmage, because, my dad would just go to the games anyway. But it just seemed odd they'd be there an hour early. So I was there with all the coaches and my parents. They walk up, and the first thing my mom goes is, we don't think you should be a manager anymore. And I was like, so caught off guard. I was like, what? Like, why? Am I in trouble in school? Like what's going on here? And she was like, well, me and Coach Iskey think that you'd probably be a little more happy playing football with them. And I lit up, and I was so happy. I had tears, and the coaches were the same way. If you ask Coach Morris, he'll say, no matter what, if he won a state title, that'd still be his top coaching moment. I mean, seeing me able to play football with the other coaches and with my friends and everything, and it was great. All of them gave me hugs and everything, and life went on, and I started playing football from that point on.
That's fantastic. One of the stories and the takes I got was they had to secretly make you a jersey.
So yeah, my mom did everything behind my back. Total surprise. Like, she's not a great surprise person, but she got me pretty good on this one.
That's fantastic.
I showed up, and she already had football gloves. She had cleats ordered. She talked to all the coaches. All the coaches were in on it and knew about it. And they had a jersey ordered with my name on it and everything, so I just step in and not miss a beat.
Hemophilia, and what precautions do you take before or during an athletic activity to prevent your injury or to manage your condition? So you talked a little bit about your nurse coming down. Tell me about that process.
So in order for me to play, there were certain conditions we had to meet. I have to get a shot weekly of this certain medication, and it will inject platelets into my blood, and I will be considered regular blood levels for 4 days. It has a 4-day half-life. And then at that point, it'll slowly wear off. So I get one every Friday for game days. But we also had to clear it with insurance and everything else. But yeah.
How did insurance and the doctors, everyone okay with it?
I think they approved it. I don't necessarily know they were okay with it, but that's all stuff that happened behind my back, so it's not my area of expertise.
Okay. Have you ever experienced an issue and experienced a bleeding episode during a game or practice? And how do you handle it with the platelets?
Oh, absolutely. Just this year, I've had issues with my arm every game of every season. The scrimmage against Mid-Prairie, I got kicked on the inside of my bicep, and for the first 2 weeks, it was all black and blue all the way down my forearm and everything. The game before Tipton, it was Thursday morning before Tipton. I have a really good picture. At West Burlington, the final 2 minutes, I got kicked right here in my forearm. There's still a little bit of swelling.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it swelled up, and this was all black and red and purple and every color you can think of. But, I mean, I got shots during the week, and they said, play if you can. They said, I had it wrapped. So I talked to Sarah. I got a sleeve, and I have a foam pad that sits on top of it.
Okay.
And then I put an ace wrap over top of it. And then we put another ace wrap over top of it just to try and get extra protection. So if you watch that Tipton game, when we hit running clock, I took my pads off and iced it right away.
Yeah.
And I can also find a picture. The blood from it had diffused so bad that my hand was swollen. I only wore one glove that game because I couldn't get a glove on my hand.
So it because of the hemophilia in your blood so thin, it just doesn't heal.
Yeah.
As quickly or normally.
Like this lump, it actually doesn't look too bad. But they said it could take months for it to finally go away, just because it has to diffuse and absorb again.
Okay.
But between football and basketball and just keep hitting it, I could be there my entire senior year.
Yeah. And you're okay with that?
Yeah, that's the risk you take. It's football. You're gonna get hurt. I expect it to happen. You just have to deal with it, wrap it, ice it, get shots for it. That's all I can do.
So do you work with a specific medical team? I know you mentioned your nurse. Is there anyone else that we don't know of that you have to see or do differently besides Sarah, the athletic trainer, and then obviously your nurse that comes in?
No, so my nurse is kind of she sees me every week. She's great, and she works at the University of Iowa, and they have a whole floor dedicated to hemophilia department.
That's awesome.
And there are certain individuals at the hospital that were kind of in the doctor's ear about kind of approving me, letting me play. And, they're great too. So it's kind of, the only person I actually have to see is my nurse, but I have yearly appointments at the hospital where I have to go and they test my blood and make sure everything's still going fine.
Do you ever feel nervous about participating in a high-intensity and contact sport due to hemophilia?
No. My mom and everybody gets nervous. Like, if you watch my mom in games, she'll, tense up, and my nurse is the same way. She watches from home sometimes. But
Does she tune into the Common Activities Network?
She does. Yeah.
She does. We got to give her a shout out. So we appreciate that, nurse.
Yeah, she watches. She loves the fact that I get to play. She gets a little nervous sometimes, but I ignore it. I don't want to bow out and be like, oh, I'm gonna get hurt. It's gonna get worse. I mean, that picture is pretty gnarly, and I told Coach Slife, I was like, I'm playing. Like, I'm not missing my senior homecoming. It's gonna happen.
I guess, first of all, what's it like to coach a kid that has hemophilia?
Honestly, I don't think about it a whole lot. I've been around him enough, and I know that the previous coaching staff I'm pretty close with Coach Key and the crew and Coach Iskey and all those guys. And I coached back here in 2010 with all those guys, and they told me a little bit about him and his condition and just him getting cleared and how big of a thing that was for the entire program, the community, and as well as the Axsom family. As well as the Becker family, because I know they're pretty tight. But it's just great. Honestly, I don't think about it. There was one funny story with this where Seth had a bloody nose in the middle of the game, and he's like, "Coach, I'm bleeding." And I'm like, "Suck it up." And then I thought about it afterwards. He actually came, "No, Coach, it was actually, I can't stop bleeding right now because of it." So honestly, that's an example of me really not thinking about it a whole lot. I think about it a little bit as far as like personnel. What we were doing early in the year with them, as far as we were running them inside, as far as the running back a little bit, just because he's one of our best athletes. We need to give him a ball, but we also got to get him through the end of the season. So that changed a little bit about 3 games through, just knowing that if we want Seth to continue to play for us throughout the entire year, I need to probably tweak some things in how we were doing it. So we got Briggs back in the backfield and put Seth a little bit more out, where he's more comfortable as far as being a receiver. But honestly, that's the biggest change that we had this year, the thought process, and it hasn't been really a big thing as far as what we're asking him to do or my thought process, besides just being, sitting around and thinking about it afterwards.
Yeah. Could you describe Seth as a member of the team? What role does he play? Kind of how does he rank amongst the players and whatnot on this team?
He played on a 7-on-7 team that was Rip City this year, and early in the year, and that's a little bit about Rip City. Is it's a 7-on-7 team we started last year, and he played on the traveling team and was going all over the Midwest. He was hanging in there with recruits from Oklahoma, Oklahoma State. We went down and played the Gatorade Player of the Year down in Oklahoma, and he hung in with some of the best players in the Midwest and down in Oklahoma. So we knew right away what kind of player he was going to be. And then when Coach Duman asked me to join the staff later on, I already had a working relationship with a couple of the West Liberty guys. So it was an easy transition as far as what he was able to do for us in 7-on-7 and what he's doing for us now. And obviously, if he's competing with some of the best in the Midwest, that he's doing amazing things for us. We're very fortunate to have him. He's a leader, quiet leader, goes about his business and does things the right way all the time. Testament to his family and how they've raised him. And I can't say enough good things about the family and about Seth as a person. I would do anything for that kid. He's just unbelievable. So, but those are the kids you dream about coaching, and we're fortunate to have a few of them on.
Answered it. How does hemophilia impact your mental approach to sports?
When I'm participating in any sport, basketball, baseball, track, I don't even consider it. Like, it's not even a thought in the back of my mind.
Trust the medicine, trust what you're doing, your process.
Yep. Everybody around me kind of knows what's going on. Like, all the parents, they've been around me long enough. They know the condition. Sarah knows the condition. The coaches kind of sort of know the condition.
Okay.
It was something I didn't even disclose to them.
Yes, I talk about that, because that was something that I had heard from your mom, that we weren't sure that the coaching staff even knew about this.
Yeah, so it was something that I had very briefly mentioned to Coach Dumont in like March when we had our parent-player meetings.
Yeah.
but it wasn't something I made a huge emphasis on,
Yeah.
just because,
That's not who you are.
I don't think anything of it. So then, when these injuries were happening, Coach McKillop knew about it because he was on the staff last year. And he said he was on his way to the JV game for West Burlington, and he received a text from Coach Dumont that said, if Seth gets, his arm's messed up, he's done, protect him, because they didn't necessarily know that I had it or the effects of it, just because I told them about it because I'm supposed to, but
Yeah.
I didn't make it I'm something special, protect me kind of thing. I want them to treat me just like they would any other player. If I'm being soft, call me out on it.
What would you say to the young Comets out there watching that are going to see this? And what would you mention to them?
It's all about being a good person and a good teammate. The coaches, they're big on team seniority, and that was something when I came through the baseball program. As an 8th grader freshman, it was seniority, you got the bags and everything. But after games, I'll throw bags in the trailer. I'm doing all this special stuff on the football field, but at the end of the day, we're all human beings. I mean, I'm no more special than a freshman who's sitting the bench. We all have our part, but I think everybody's equal, and I'm not somebody who's too special to pick up a bag and throw in a trailer so somebody else doesn't have to. I mean, we all played the game. Everybody's tired. I don't think it's the coach's job. The coaches coached. They did their job. I think we can throw our own bags in the thing. But I think it's little things like that, just being a good human being and a good teammate and not putting yourself above anybody else if you do something special. Coach Dumont always says, shifting to neutral. He even got us books for it. But it's his motto of saying, once you do something good, get back to, level-headed. Or if you do something bad, get back to level-headed. And that's just kind of how you should carry yourself out through life. And that's kind of what he's trying to drive home this year as we go throughout the season.
I like that.
Yeah.
Never get too big, never get too low.
Yeah.
Love it. How much do you know about Seth's condition? Because he doesn't tell anybody anything.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't know about it until week 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And then the trainer said something to me.
Yeah.
Because he had a bloody nose in a game, and we're just kind of like, hey, suck it up.
Yeah.
And then I found out about it. I'm like, whoa, guys, just so you know, if he has a bloody nose, we probably need to get him out of the game.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you say it like that because I don't know the kid all that well, but from interviewing him here for a half hour before this, he is such a humble spirit that he wouldn't tell me about it, even though he knew that's why we were there.
Yeah.
I'm like, so tell me what it's like with the challenges of playing football with this condition. He's like, I just I just don't make a big deal of it. I just I want to be treated like everybody else.
Yeah. He really doesn't, and he's tough as nails. A lot of people don't know this, but before the Tipton game, his arm was beat up bad. Really bad, and obviously he has some bruising issues with that condition. And we had the kids in practice doing some conditioning. They were doing some push-ups, and he's over there doing push-ups because he's the kid that just doesn't want to not do everything the team does. Like, hey, buddy, it's okay. You can do sit-ups. And it was to the point where in Tipton, I know it was bothering pretty bad. He's like, hey, coach, if we get running clock, then I come out. I'm like, sure. But he just wants to be part of it. He's a great kid. I've coached lots of great kids, and he's right up there just as far as humble. If you look at who's watching film and the minutes kids are spending on our film study, he's always at the top of the list. He's always the first one looking at the installs. Tonight we're in there in the film room. He's like, hey, coach, look at play 53. I think I got something. And he did. So, I wish I had 11 of him on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, that's fantastic stuff. Is there any particular challenges that come up with having to coach a kid who has hemophilia?
Not with him. He like I said, you wouldn't even know it if the trainer hadn't mentioned something to me about it. So I think the big thing is just like, hey, when he's dinged up one way or the other, he's the kid you have to dial back. And he's the kid that in practice you have to say, hey, come take a few breaks, we'll get somebody else in for you. Because he will run through a brick wall for you. He does everything 100%. He does everything full speed. And that's what you want. You want kids like that where you have to, hey, pull the reins in a little bit.
Is he the leader that it appears that he is on the field?
So you'll notice we try and rotate the captains around all year and let all the seniors be a captain. But in the last 4 weeks, it's been Riker and Seth have been the consistent mainstays there. Even during baseball, he was getting a couple lifts in. Once baseball was over, he missed a lift. just does everything the right way. And listen, for the program to be successful at the level we want it to be successful at, it can't just be 5 of your 11 starters. It has to be all of them. And that's what we're getting to, and it's not going to happen overnight.
No.
And if you look at our record this year, I wouldn't want to play us in the playoffs, right? It's just that inconsistency, and that's what I've been telling the kids, is they've got enough talent to make a run in the playoffs. The question is, do they have the discipline? And that discipline honestly starts in the off season by being at the weight room every week, making sure you're in there and doing the full workout, making sure you're doing the film study, and all that stuff carries over. And we're getting there, but if there's younger kids out there and they're looking at role models, Seth is certainly one of those kids. He just does everything right, and he maximizes his athletic ability, right? And don't get me wrong, he's very athletic. He's a very talented kid. But there's lots of talented kids out there. We've got talented kids on the team that don't necessarily see the field a lot or get the opportunity because they're not working as hard as he does and showing up to everything. I think he's missed one practice, and he was deathly sick at home, and then the next day he's here, and he's not feeling well, and you can tell it, but he just wants to be here. He wants to be doing everything he can to be successful.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Kim,
Yeah,
do you want
we
to tell
appreciate
how this all came about?
You had interviewed Seth over at the volleyball game in Wilton, and you had made the comment to Seth about Seth having a big heart, and you see it out there on the football field. And I've always told Seth that he plays with a huge heart in all of his sports. And I had sent you a message that I loved that you said that because I've always told Seth that. And that's how it came about.
What is hemophilia?
It's a bleeding disorder.
Where your blood doesn't clot like a normal person's.
Okay. And how does one develop or get hemophilia?
You are born with it. It's in your genes. It's passed down, from your parents, and then depending on what kids you have, you pass it to your kids.
I know you've got a little bit more experience with this, Rob. Can you explain kind of how the hemophilia works and how it gets passed down?
So you're missing a clotting factor in your X chromosome, and the mother's a carrier. With her X chromosomes, she passes one to the son, and they've got a 50-50 chance of being a hemophilia. Then when the son has a kid, if they have a boy, it ends. If they have a girl, then she will be a carrier. But girls technically can't be a hemophilia because the clotting factor is in their other X chromosome.
Kim, you are
The carrier.
the carrier of it, and that's where it came from. There's other family members that goes back through the family bloodline, obviously.
My two brothers.
Your two brothers both are. So how did it affect their experiences growing up? I mean, talk about that.
My oldest brother didn't affect very much. He wasn't very much of an athlete. My little brother had a hard time.
Okay.
He still has a hard time.
Okay.
He had a hard time because he loved football as much as my son. So that caused him a lot of trouble through high school. He wanted to play football, and the medicines weren't out there like they are now for him to have the capability to play.
Tell me about young Seth.
We just had to let him be a boy and go one day at a time. When kindergarten starts, that's when it all started. The bumps, the bruises, and going to the doctors. And
Explaining to his homeroom teachers that if he falls and gets a bruise, you need to circle it and watch it. And
Mandy Wolf had fun with Seth.
How hard was it for you guys to see him wanting to play football growing up and not being able to?
It was very hard, and there were many times it was challenging because it tore Seth to pieces many times. He would come home from being with Jason at a football game because Jason Iskey and Morris helped Seth be part of the team. And he would come home and not understand, why can't I do this? Why can't I just be part of this? And he would break down. there were times I would call my brother and say, can you please try to talk to him, get him to calm down, because I didn't know what to say to him.
Yeah.
When you don't understand the situation, so I would have my brother talk to him and calm him down.
Rob Dengler was a big one too, because he went to, I don't think Seth missed, sorry.
Oh, you're good.
I don't think he missed a 5th grade or 6th grade football practice or game.
Yeah, Seth mentioned that he would participate, and the coaches were amazing to bring him in. I spoke with some of his previous coaches, and they mentioned specifically that they identified Seth when he was in 7th grade as being an outstanding athlete, one, and two, someone that they wanted to be around their kids because of his potential leadership, and he has developed into an outstanding young man and an outstanding quiet leader, and that's testament to Seth. You mentioned a little bit about Coach Iskey and Coach Morris bringing Seth along and letting him help coach and help be a part of the team. Was that freshman year?
Oh, boy.
7th and 8th grade he was there too.
Yeah.
7th and 8th grade was there
It
too?
was
He
ball
was
boy.
always on the sideline.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it was everything. Ball boy, picking up balls. Morris even had him helping him with calls and go do this and go do that. It was everything. The coaches made him part of the team. It was awesome.
That's awesome that they were
Well,
so inclusive.
Iskey took him to the dome. Jason called us and said, can I take him?
And that would have been his freshman year, right?
I don't remember what year that was, but Jason called and asked us if he could go to the dome with the football team, and we're like, oh my God, Seth would love that.
That's awesome.
So Seth was down on the sideline just with the team.
What led to Seth being able to play?
Seth had a hip bleed his freshman year during basketball. Just started basketball freshman year. Had a bad hip bleed. That's how we met Angie, through ARJ. And Angie was treating Seth one of the days and said something, was talking about football was his love, his passion. And she's like, and you don't play. That's when we found out about this medicine called Revenine. Well, that put it in Seth's head. So summertime, Seth was, Mom, do you think blah, blah, blah. So I got a hold of Seth's nurse up at the U, which knows us very well because I have brothers anyways, I talked to her. And so she talked to the doctor. And we pretty much had to beg the doctor to write Seth a prescription. We had to make some deals. Okay, you can check Seth's blood. He had to have his blood checked 2 or 3 times to see what the medicine was going to do. We agreed to that. Then it was getting insurance to approve it. It's a pricey medicine.
Yes.
We all know how pricey this can be.
Yeah.
After everything got approved, football season had started. Team pictures had already been taken. Everything had already been gone. And I don't know if it was Carla or Angie called and said, everything's a go. The medicine was approved. Your insurance has approved. So we called Jason and Morris and said, everything's a go. They were all excited. So we arranged for us to meet Seth as they were walking over to the field. All the coaches and the team was behind him, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And the girls, the managers. So we walked up with an umbrella. I think it was going to rain or something. And Seth's like, what are you guys doing here? And we're like, oh, we brought you an umbrella. He had no idea. We had went to Shields. We bought him cleats and gloves and the mouthpiece. Well, we have something to tell you. Okay. And we're like, Seth, how would you like to start playing football next week? And he's just like, what? Seth, you've been approved to play football. And it was just like, eyes got glassy, and every single coach, their eyes got glassy. I mean, the love of football in this kid and those coaches knowing that Seth loves football, I wish somebody would have recorded it, to be honest, because it was a moment Seth will always remember and those coaches will remember.
Yeah.
It was a great moment
Yeah.
because he has been told, you will never play football. but we never knew about this medicine. This medicine has saved this kid. He can be just like Riker Dangler out there. I mean, he's got his bumps and bruises that we got to take care of. We're taking care of an arm right now.
Yeah, we saw it.
So Jason and I got Seth's football jerseys ordered. We got the football number picked out, which was number 12, because that's what Brett Becker was, and that's what Seth Axsom had to have. And when the football jerseys came in, we asked Amber Seaton to come back into town, and Amber Seaton took Seth to the football field, and she took his own photos for his football photos for his sophomore year, for his first time.
Did they reshoot the team photo too?
No.
No, okay.
No. But he had his football photos
That's awesome.
in his football jersey for his sophomore year
That's awesome.
because of Amber Seaton.
How do you find comfort in seeing it? Is it just the knowledge of knowing that that's only because of the hemophilia? It's not actually damaged as bad as it looks? Because the pictures you showed me were gnarly.
Those are actually not bad.
Uh,
If you
Okay.
would have actually seen his hip bruise, that
the
was
hip bruise worse?
horrible.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna say his nurse Angie, who put us onto this, she's been with him ever since.
The
She
freshman year.
So they give you
She-
the confidence
she's
that
our family
he's
now.
okay.
she lives in Jessup,
Yep.
and she drives down to see him once a week.
That's fantastic.
You know,
She treats him every day.
sometimes, depending on if he gets bad, 3 to 4 times a week, and is constantly checking. And
We heard she's a Common Activity Network follower and listener, so shout out to Angie for that. Appreciate it.
she came.
She was
last-
at
came
a
Friday
senior night.
That's awesome.
Her and her family come to one event usually for every sport.
Tell me how that makes you guys feel to see him out there playing and
It's-
playing really well, if I might add.
He's playing his love.
Just comforting.
Yeah, he was always told he'll never play football, and he's getting the opportunity to do it. And now he's got colleges that are asking him to come play.
What'd you say the medication was called again?
It's called Rebinine.
Rebinine. And what does Rebinine do?
It helps build up his blood like your blood,
It's
so that it clots.
a clotting agent,
Yeah,
Okay.
and as
And-
soon as it goes in, it starts working.
and it lasts. They
7.
figure 4 or 5 days, 6 days, where the medicine he had before, he'd only get treated if he would have a bleed, and that is like 24 hours.
And that's always on hand at home.
Okay. I was just going to ask, do you have like spares of these in case there's an
We
emergency?
always have 3 doses on hand at home.
Okay.
And if we're traveling a distance away, we will
We have to take some with us.
take it with us, so we have it in case something would happen,
Yeah.
because it's not readily available everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, hospitals don't necessarily carry it.
That's wild.
If we go on
Vacations.
family vacations, we talk to the university and say, okay, this is where we're going. Any hospitals in the area have it, and it's like, well, okay, this is the closest one to you, and it could be 200 or 300 miles away.
My goodness.
It's just to be safe.
So what's it been like seeing the success of Seth and seeing him thrive and seeing him perform? I mean, it has to be the most prideful amount of feelings as a parent to see your son doing something that you know his passion is, and just to be able to witness it. I mean, is there anything else that we want to make sure that we get included in this?
The coaches and Seth's friends have always been really great with him.
Yeah. What was it like as a mom watching your son play with his friends and them knowing about his condition? How did they treat him, and what was that like to see as a mom watching?
I don't think it changed the friends. I would say some of the moms would panic a little bit and are like, no, you don't have to worry about it. Just let us know if something happens. But the friends were, his buddies were great. All of his buddies were great. Riker and Ryan probably were his closest buddies growing up, playing over at Vicky and Ryan Jones's house. They always would play football and stuff. Vicky Jones and Amy Cassidy, oh, those two are hilarious. Oh God, Seth just got hurt. No, he's fine. He's fine.
We don't. So, first of all, congratulations on having a fantastic child. Seth Axsom is an amazing young man. I want you both to know it's been a pleasure of mine to get to know him earlier today. And to watch him play football, to see him play it the way that he does, it was an absolute, this has been an honor to do this. So thank you guys both, seriously.